This is a podcast or something like that. This is a podcast or something like. This is a podcast or something like that. I need like 3 more notes on it. Yeah. I don't know. They got to make a kalimba with a few more notes. Am I right? Hi. And well, on that relatable note, welcome to the Verbal Journal Podcast, episode 110. We are into the double digits within the triple digits, if that makes sense. We've made it, we've been in the triple digits for 10 episodes, but now we are into the double digits within the triple digits, so 110 rather than 109. Doesn't seem as powerful, actually, when you're already in the triple digits. Still, very cool to be doing a public episode. Hi, and welcome to the public. Hope you're feeling fine. This is the Verbal Journal Podcast. I do this every week. I talk, I explore subjects, I explore objects, frankly, and thoughts and feelings. And that's it. Nothing else. Welcome. We have a lot to talk about. Not too much to talk about, not like an excessive amount where you're going to be like, but we try to keep it to a minimum here. Obviously, I did a public podcast episode 3 weeks ago, as I do them every 3 weeks, and it was a totally normal episode. Nothing went wrong. Nothing was catastrophic. Nothing was different, even, I would say. So it's good to be back and doing a totally regular thing here, a totally regular episode. Continuation. So, welcome. Thank you to the channel supporters on Patreon and YouTube memberships, who support the channel and, help keep this whole thing going. I really appreciate it. I mean, I don't get a ton of money from Patreon and YouTube memberships, but it's enough. It's a little chunk of money each month. It's enough for a bag of groceries, and then I get some AdSense, money from YouTube still, which is crazy. Obviously, I'll talk about the new video that came out. I talked about it a bit last episode of the podcast, and I'm going to do a live stream in like a week or so on the main channel and talk about it a lot more. But we'll touch on it. And yeah, so you can look at the timestamps to kind of get a sense of what we're going to be doing here. I never really mentioned that verbally. It would be, it's probably nice. To mention, we don't really have too much else to talk about in the intro here. So I'll just, take a sip of coffee and Okay. So, this is the channel. Just wanted to kind of show you it. If you're not familiar, go, subscribe, I guess. Obviously, you're watching this on this channel. So, it's been a good run so far, Used to not do video episodes. I could never go back now. Popular. Yeah, fair enough. That was like a subject people were more interested in. Which I did just do a video on another Sam Cedar conversation for channel supporters, and I'll talk about that in the horizontal integration segment. So you can fast forward to that if you're bored. All right. So let's get going here on the pod. Okay. And so the first thing we like to do here on the podcast, and we didn't always do this, but it was this is a segment that I think is more and more popular as time passes. And that is the video segment. So in the video segment, I have different videos each week that I will talk about. I like to have sort of a short video to kind of cover, give my 2 cents on. We were looking at some funny commercials last time and other interesting things, and we were analyzing them a normal amount, an appropriate, proportionate amount, I would say. So let's see what we got on the docket for the video desk today. The video segment, I'm sorry, it's not a desk. It's a throwback. It's a segment. And, today my producer Donna threw something on the vid segment for me. So let's see. What is this, Donna? What do you got for me here? This is an hour long video, Donna. I mean, is this timestamped? Should I just watch this? They're looking at me like, I don't know. You put it on the doc. Okay. Something's wrong with Donna. I'm allowed to say that on the pod. No, if you act weird, I'm allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to say, things about all the other staff members here at the pod, but so this is apparently a debate between two titans of industry. Ro Khanna is obviously a congressional member from California. Not someone I'm particularly fond of. He's a Democratic guy, but I don't know. He's definitely not like. I don't really know what his faults are, but I've heard him discussed in not so positive light. So I get the sense that he's not the most groundbreaking congressional member. It would be so funny to see Dave Rubin go up against like AOC or something. Has that ever happened? There's no way he's had a debate with AOC, right? Dave Rubin AOC debate. I mean, I don't know that she would want to be caught in a room with him, but yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Can I just say something because I don't even know if you want me to watch this. Timestamp is an hour-long video. Usually the video segment's like a 30-second video. So I just want to kind of do a little detour here.
You have to start with the obvious.
Whoa. Classic. Channels that have videos autoplay are always chill and cool. Video segment. No. Videos page. Let's go to the live page. There's something. The way Dave titles his things is very interesting. Host gets visibly angry as his trap backfires. Press gasps. He's obsessed with like putting gasping and like going silent in the titles. We laughed about that many months ago. See, go quiet. Jordan Peterson makes Joe Rogan go quiet. He's obsessed with people going quiet. Let's see. Gasping, stunned silence, shocked, crowd roars. Okay, that's more of a positive reaction. Shocks, crowd. Okay, I thought maybe he's grown out of just saying go quiet every single live stream. Someone's floored. Host gets visibly angry. Okay. Gasping. Yeah, I wonder how many times he just says gasp, actually. Let's just search gasp. This is important. This is why you watch my podcast. Gasp, gasp. Gasp, 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 gasp. He's just obsessed with gasping. He's really obsessed with gasping. Okay, never mind. That's not the point. Let's just watch a segment of this debate to kind of get a read on where a fellow like Dave Rubin is what he's kind of working with. Obviously, he is in this kind of post tenant media money phase of his life where he's been exposed for receiving exorbitant amounts of money from Russian cutouts, state media cutouts. Apparently, it seems certainly insane amounts of money. So let's see how he's kind of like making his show work here. Let's just watch this. So this is obviously a segment about a judge in Wisconsin in the United States being charged with a crime for preventing ICE from arresting someone she was holding a trial for or a hearing. And ICE did not have a judicial warrant. They had an administrative warrant, and they're not supposed to be arresting people in courtrooms when those people are on trial or at hearings for other cases. So this judge did what a lot of judges would do and said, please don't arrest this man in my courtroom while I'm trying to do a hearing. And so, yeah, she is currently being charged. I do not think that she will be held accountable because I don't think she's done anything wrong. Well, let's see what Dave Rubin's take will be on it. And she's like retained a really powerful lawyer, conservative lawyer. So it seems like she's got a lot of good support. But anyways, let's see what Dave Rubin says.
Yes, that's a crime. But let me ask you this, just because
being very thoughtful about it. If a judge says
that's a good way to debate, to say positive things like that about the other person. You're being very thoughtful and so on. Yeah.
not arrest someone, let's say she didn't have him go out the jury room. Let's say she just had him go out the regular.
Sorry.
Okay, I did not realize that the one portion I would try to play would have a technical issue on Dave's show.
Would you have a problem with that?
Literally, just as you made your point, that sentence, your audio cut out. So if you could just repeat that, please.
Would you have a problem if she just said, I don't want anyone arrested in my courtroom? You can, and it wasn't a question of, okay, they used the jury door. Let's say it was the other door. Do you believe
again a good debate tactic? He's trying to isolate where the disagreement is. Is it about this sort of like nefariously framed, oh, she let him leave a door? Obviously the guy could still get arrested by ICE. It's just the idea is like people need to come to their court hearings without thinking they're going to get targeted by Homeland Security without a warrant.
Local judge should be able to say, look, in my courtroom, I don't want someone to be arrested.
And it's so fascinating. The most fascinating thing about this that you got to think about is like conservatives like Dave Rubin pretend to be small government. And we're talking about a federal agency intruding on a local judicial hearing.
A church could say that in a church, or not. That's not concealing someone's arrest. It's just saying in this courtroom, I don't want ICE arresting someone.
Well, I don't know what the actual legal procedure is as it relates to that, whether ICE is allowed to literally walk in the courtroom or not. I don't know what that is, but the idea that a judge,
it's a pretty important question,
would do anything so that it would confuse, at the very least, ICE's ability to do their job does seem illegal to me.
Because they're just following orders, right? ICE is just following orders.
And then the issue about the handcuffs, it's like, look, I don't think judges are above the law. I mean, I just don't. If you harbored an illegal alien, you'd be taken away.
And the alien thing is, I mean, to even call people illegal is, I think, a huge stretch. But when you hear someone call someone else an alien, you think, is there any more dehumanizing word that they could use? I mean, they could say garbage, but alien is sort of equally dehumanizing to the word garbage.
Handcuffs, and so would I. So I don't see why a judge would be treated any better than us, I suppose, or better than anyone else. As to whether it happened in the courtroom or not is somewhat irrelevant. But the second the guy, let's say, even if I grant you that, right? Again, I don't know the legal ramifications of all of that. But the second he walks out of the courtroom,
I believe Rokana is a lawyer, by the way.
He should be arrested.
And my sense is he was. I mean, he goes to a public hallway. They don't arrest him. I don't understand why they don't arrest him right at the public hallway, but then they eventually arrest him. I would have a very different view of the facts of the case if she had said, come to my house, or here's a car, go drive away.
Because she wasn't saying the guy shouldn't get arrested, and she wasn't saying that she wanted to protect him. She was saying that I'm here to do a job, which is have a hearing about a different case, and my job is frustrated by the actions of federal agents who don't have a warrant.
Here's someone who's going to escort you to safety. She basically said, exit the courtroom. A lot of times when there's a lot of press or other things, people exit through the jury room. We'll see the facts. If the facts come out showing that she was actually trying to have this person evade the ICE agents, then I still don't think, in this context of the courtroom, it's a criminal matter, but I'm not going to condone that in any way.
Sure.
But so my point is just this idea of the federal government arresting state judges. Imagine, look, there is going to be a
right. I mean, I'm just going to stop here. We can move on, right? I mean, should we look at a different section? Donna, was this what you wanted me to watch? Maybe next time you add something to the... oh, nice. It's good that Dave's independent media. Not sponsored by any interests or corporations, just telling it like it is. Dave strikes me as a very unhappy man. I do think that he's not a full true believer in the stuff he says. I think someone like Jordan Peterson is a bit more of a true believer. I get the sense that Dave is more of an entertainer. I mean, he started as a comedian, which is fine. I mean, lots of people do. But I don't get the sense that he really believes all this stuff. But he seems like he's motivated by resentment and like sadness. I don't get very positive. He doesn't seem like he's having a good time.
Our point of view, and I think let's have this debate go all the way to.
I mean, and I can only imagine being a gay man and try, like, how do you handle that cognitive dissonance? It really is like, I don't know, maybe this is extreme, sure, but it's like being a Palestinian who's like a Zionist. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like he supports political actors who would 100% take away his right to have a family. Like, so the cognitive dissonance, I think, is akin to a Palestinian Zionist, which doesn't really exist. I mean, for obvious reasons, but like, it's a similar, I think, type of cognitive dissonance, maybe not the same degree. Maybe if Republicans were dropping bombs on gay nightclubs, Dave would change his mind. I don't know. It's hard to say, but certainly the legal stuff kind of evades him. The oppression via, lawfare and rolling back rights of queer people, gay people. I'm sure he doesn't call himself queer. I've heard him be like, I'm married to a man. Like trying to do everything possible to be like, it's not a part of my identity per se. It's not a part of my identity. I don't identify with my sexual orientation. I'm just saying I happen to be married to a man. Anyways, what am I looking at?
Have to support have to spend the money Congress appropriates. I think the Supreme Court should take this up soon and just issue the ruling.
Is Dave Rubin Jewish too? I feel like he might be. What's his view on anti-Semitism here?
All right, so let's jump to where Harvard's at, and we won't rush as I intended. Breaking, Harvard just released its final report on anti-Semitism.
Dave, you do know how to cite a news article, right? I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, Dave, but like, you do know how to cite a news article. Like, you can just pull up a news article. I mean, it doesn't have to be a tweet that you've like copy and pasted into a title card on a video. Like, you could just bring up a screenshot of a news article. In fact, I would say it's best practices to be doing that. Let me just read it really quick, because I actually looked at this Harvard report. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's why they're not pulling up the article. Wow. This is the most biased rendition of what that research found. Wow. Let me just pull it up, because it actually, it's wild. Hold on, Reuters. Yeah, here we go. Because Reuters was the article I read that gave a fairly good description of it. This is, so just so if you skim what the text is on the screen, it is highlighting, it is completely, and I wonder if Halavi Ishmael might be a little biased. And I say this as a Jewish person, by the way, who's even been to Israel. I'm a little bit ashamed to say, or I'm pretty ashamed to say. I wonder if this person might be a little bit biased, because their rendition of what this Harvard research just showed completely leaves out the anti-Islam sentiment. And the Harvard research actually showed, it was a task force on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, and it was just released. And what it shows, this is very important to understand, and as a Jewish person, and we are right now in the United States seeing anti-Semitism used as a pretext, alleged anti-Semitism used as a pretext to deport people and try to crack down on people's freedoms of movement and freedoms to live with their family and to be a resident of their community. So it's very serious. So this 500-page report from 50 listening sessions with about 500 students and employees found that gathering a lot of responses, survey found 47% of Muslim respondents and 15% of Jewish respondents did not feel physically safe on campus. So just think about that. And this quote that they brought up does not even mention the fact that the research showed extreme anti-Islam and sentiment. 47. So that's 3 times as many. 3 times as many Muslim respondents as Jewish respondents. Obviously, anti-Semitism is real. I'm Jewish, I could tell you, but I'm being arrested for talking about anti-Semitism. Hold on, I'm being arrested. All right. No? Okay, false alarm, sorry. So yeah, I'm glad. I wasn't expecting to talk about this necessarily. 92% of Muslims and 61% of Jews felt there were academic or professional repercussions for expressing their political beliefs. So not only it's just unbelievable that, and then obviously when the Republican Trump administration was asked about this, they did not acknowledge the anti-Muslim sentiment on campuses. But yeah, I'm just showing you literally from an article on the exact same thing that Dave is talking about. It shows 3 times as much lack of physical safety for Muslims reporting or compared to Jews reporting. Okay, and I'm a Jewish person telling you this, and I'm just telling you what the study has shown. And Dave pulls up a quote from Halavi Ismail. Okay, you're allowed to have the name Halavi Ismail, but why not just pull up a news article? Because maybe this one person is not really summarizing it in a super even-handed way, Dave. You can read articles, right? You can even read the 500-page report if you want, but at least read like AP News, Reuters, like read an article about it. You know what I mean? Because I'm showing you that literally, and obviously there's zero mention here of anti-Muslim bias. Look, they don't even say that the report was on anti-Muslim bias. So, Dave, maybe you want to go a little bit deeper than this guy you follow on Twitter. You know what I mean?
An anti-Israel bias. It's 300 plus pages and pretty devastating to read. I thought I knew what was going on at Harvard, but even I wasn't prepared for this. Let's break down the most shocking parts. A Jewish student was told they couldn't share their story of their...
Dave loves reading. He just reads. I forget what other thing I was watching where he just reads these things.
Of the hostages. Harvard chose to move the Jewish students for safety.
There's zero mention of anti-Muslim and anti-Islam sentiment. Dave, you got an issue, bro. You got an issue.
Safety reasons while protesters roamed around freely in a university.
Whoa, protesters are moving around freely? What is this, Nazi Germany?
I'd survey, most respondents said they do not feel safe. It's rather shocking.
Let's see if Rokana at least knows.
Or not, I suppose. This is a chart of Harvard applicants having...
Okay. Okay, just a different, separate thing on Dave's PowerPoint presentation here. Let's see if Rokana knows. Actually, do I care? I think I made my point. Let's move on. Good job, Dave. Maybe try reading news articles. I guess would probably be my big tip on that front. Sometimes when you read a news article, you will end up learning that the context and the framing of an issue was not super accurate by the guy you follow on Twitter. And that's just kind of a free tip. All right, so let's move on here. After the video segment, we like to move swiftly into what we call the image segment. So look at this image. You may have seen this week. This was taken by a drone in Anson, Texas, by a Reuters drone. And this is detainees, which is another word for people that are being forcibly held without charges. Without criminal charges, they are being forcibly held in a camp. I mean, I don't know what you want to call it. Is it a prison if people haven't been charged with anything? I mean, they're in a camp, and then at what point? Yeah, anyway, so this is a sort of shocking photo because it shows the death. I mean, I don't even need to explain what it shows. I just wanted to show this as the image segment because I just didn't know what else to do. I mean, we're all living through this, and I know it's really hard. It's definitely a ramping up of the already unjust nature of U.S. society and the sort of U.S.-based imperial world order. I don't really know how else to call it. But you do have to try to take in as much of reality as you can. I think that's the meaning of life and the purpose of life is to try as a as a rational system to process the world around us as much as possible. And so just to not block this out, just to let it in, like, these are human beings spelling out SOS as they are detained and worried that they might be sent to a death camp in El Salvador for quote unquote terrorists, where, you know, I just think at the end of the day, like, that's not justice, right? So we talk about justice in some of my videos, like, you know, like, people, if they've committed a crime, you can hold them accountable in a court of law. You know, people have a right to a speedy trial, but they're spelling out SOS in the yard at this camp, at this prison camp, so that they could try to get the world's attention. And I mean, if any of these people have harmed people, they should be held accountable. But, like, people are being rounded up for not having citizenship. Not for committing a crime, not for being in the U.S. illegally. In all cases, in a lot of cases, they just don't have full citizenship. Look at Mohsen Madawi. We'll talk about a bit later in the good news segment, because he was released from custody, still facing. He was released on bail without charges. I don't know how that works, but still facing the threat of deportation. And he was summoned to a naturalization interview, a citizenship interview, because he's gone through every legal step as a Palestinian born in the West Bank to try to attain legal citizenship in the U.S. And at that final step in that process, where he was going to get legal citizenship, they detained him without charges because he was a protester at Colombia, protesting for Palestinian people. And he's a delightful guy that seems to have a lot of wisdom and positivity, and he's anti-war. At the end of the day, being anti-war is the biggest threat to the U.S. Establishment. But it's not very popular. Most people don't want people to be held without charges. It's not a very popular thing, so they have to pretend a lot of these people are criminals without ever charging them with anything, so that's always tough. Anyways, this is the image segment. I just wanted to burn this image into your brain. Yeah. So that's the image segment. Let's move on to the horizontal immigration segment. So obviously this is where we integrate horizontally with the What's Therapy channel. You know, I don't like the people over there at What's Therapy, but, you know, I get paid a lot of money to mention them on the Verbal Journal podcast. So this guy makes it's me. I make videos. So I made this video and I released it, and maybe you've seen it. I talked about a show for 2 hours, and this was kind of fun to just spend the last month or two writing a script, going through this whole process again of making a video. I had a great time doing it. I am really happy with the product. I'm really happy that it didn't trip the copyright censors, and I had a lot of fun making it, a lot of work going into making this, and I think it's gonna last a long time on the internet, giving an interesting perspective to shrinking. I look forward to seeing how people respond. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna do a live stream talking about it, but I might keep delaying it. I'll probably do it next weekend, but I might push it back another week if I want to, because I want to get some shrinking fans to watch the live stream. I guess I could just do it anyways, but it's going to be funny if I'm doing the live stream and it's just my audience and 5% of the people even know the show. And I'm like, oh, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And I'm talking 30 different, I have a lot of things to say about the show that I didn't mention in my video. So I'm sort of waiting to see if I can attract some more shrinking fans to the channel so we can have a more lively conversation. So all right, let's next part of the horizontal integration segment is, so I released a video just now before I started this podcast where I am looking at a discussion between Sam Seder and Ethan Klein. Sam Seder of the Majority Report, Ethan Klein of the H3 podcast. And I took my time and I watched their whole thing and I reacted, or I commented on it. This was important to me to do because as a Jewish person, I really think I have the ability to weigh in on a very politically relevant and important subject right now. And I was really happy to see two Jewish guys hashing it out. It was contentious at a few points, mostly at one point. Sam got pretty upset, and I wish he had stayed a little bit more calm, or I wish he had stayed more calm. But that was just for a brief part of it. And generally, despite that, I do think it was a very productive conversation. And I thought that adding to it like I did would be helpful, because I'm able to find a middle, or not find middle ground, but sort of interpret what people are saying. And I, like I say in the description, I was all about being compassionate here. I'm not trying to add fuel to online, really unconstructive online discourse. I think there are so many important issues here related to Israel's actions against the Palestinians, how it's being interpreted within the U.S., how Jews in the U.S. are reacting to it, how we understand the Israeli population to be reacting to it, how we want our government to act or not act towards alleged anti-Semitism, how we separate anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism is a incredibly important issue right now. So it was very interesting to watch this discussion and give my take on it. This is a 3.5 hour video. I will be posting a 1.5 hour version of it. I will be posting, it's not chopped down, it's just the first half of it. So I'll be posting the first half of this probably later tonight when I release this podcast episode. And so you all can enjoy that and hear another Jew adding to a productive discussion among Jews. And then if you want to give me a few bucks, you can watch the full 3.5 hour version on the Patreon and the YouTube channel page. So that's if you want to watch that now. If for whatever reason I don't release the first half of it, but by the time I release this podcast, you can still check out the full version on the Patreon page or the YouTube membership for the main channel, for the What's Therapy channel. But I post this on the side channel just to make things sort of easier. I honestly thought about, it's worth saying, like, I actually thought a lot about just releasing this on my main channel. And honestly, if I hadn't just released a video, I might have done it because this is really important. And like, it's not online drama. I know when online commentators are involved, everyone has their history with that commentator. Everyone has their feelings about that commentator. Oh, him and him. Oh, well, I hate when he did this and I hate when he did that. And I don't like this way that person talks. And you know what? And it's really not that important in the grand scheme of things. What's important is getting to the heart of these issues. And so part of the reason I became a therapist is I like having serious conversations. I feel like, I don't know if I'm like on the autism spectrum necessarily, but like I find there's a type of communication called phatic communication. And it's also known as small talk. And it's communication that sort of has a social function rather than like a establishing facts type of function is the way I understand it. And it can bother me a lot. And I feel like people engage in a lot of that, and they're bonding and they're gossiping about online stuff. And I'm like, can we just talk about the serious issues? So part of the reason I became a therapist is I like having productive conversations. And I do think this conversation between Klein and Cedar is significantly productive. And I thought that adding to it in the way I did would be even more productive. So it's super boring. Like it's 3.5 hours. Like I go very slowly. It's like very boring. And that was by design. I'm not trying to get clicks necessarily, but I mean, I'm trying to get clicks because I want people to be exposed to these ideas. But, I'm not an expert in this stuff. I just think it's so important to express as American Jews that we do not need Zionism to defend us. We do not need to conflate anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism to feel safe. We can critique Zionism. We can condemn the actions of the state of Israel, and we can feel proud Jews nonetheless. It doesn't change a thing. No state should be an ethno-state, period. So anyways, I thought I did a good job. I brought up some sources. I had a good time. So if you want to watch that, enjoy. But if you watch it and you leave comments on the, public one or whatever, that are, drama-ish, I'll freaking delete them. I don't give a fuck. Because I'm here to have productive conversations. So anyways, that's the horizontal integration segment. And I hope you feel properly horizontally integrated. Oh, right. I was supposed to show these to entice people. This is what it looks like if you join the Patreon. I already got a like on the post. Someone's already liked it. That could have been you. And then members, it looks like this. You know what I mean? So just imagine you are a patron or member, and that is what it would look like. You don't even have to imagine. I'm showing you what it would look like. So if you have disposable income, no worries if not. Okay, so it's about time we moved on to what a lot of people say is the best part of this podcast. I imagine some people would say that. I can certainly imagine them. I'm imagining it right now. It sounds correct. And this is the Good Things the Good Things segment. I almost said the Good Things podcast. Maybe one day, right? No, I'd rather keep this podcast more generic, but. We do talk about good things. So I go through the things that happen, and I sort through and decide which are good. And then I bring them here because, frankly, a few things. First, it's uplifting. And secondly, it gives us a positive sentiment. You know what I mean? So 2 reasons. No, I mean, I really, I was sort of doing this at first to be like, whatever, like I want to talk about the news, but I don't want to go into all the terrible stuff always. I will say, and looking back over the last few months, I'm really happy that this podcast has a record, a transcript of good news developments in the world. I actually think it's quite nice, and I don't know what I'm trying to say. Okay. It's even better than I would have thought. Okay. Levi Strauss shareholders vote against proposal to end diversity program. So obviously the U.S. federal government is trying to pressure companies to not have diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility policies that are basically just extensions of like civil rights legislation. So a lot of companies are saying, not really great for our bottom line to side with the autocracy in this case. So Canada's Liberals benefit. Oh, yeah. So Canada had an election. It's crazy. Trudeau had to step down because the Liberals were so unpopular. And then really, like, as much as there are, like, in the Republicans, as much as in the U.S., as much as there are, like, calculating, fairly intelligent, seasoned veterans of the political space, there are also people with immaculate hubris. I think I used that word already on this pod, but really the hubris of coming out, talking about annexing Canada, blah, blah, blah. Actions have consequences. Actions have consequences. And it's remarkable because it really does make me think of the same sort of principles talked about in the Better Call Saul videos where, Jimmy maybe steps a little bit further than he would have, gets a little bit too confident, but there's backlash. And so it's like, it's just so interesting, the sort of the nature of the universe and the fact that actions have consequences. Do I think this guy's a great political candidate? No, that's not the point. But obviously, Poilievre was way worse and was like trying to do this sort of like DeSantis playbook. And yeah, anyways, so Canada, the Liberals won in Canada. It's crazy. I don't think they have a majority leadership in the parliament, but it's more than. I think the Conservatives still, it's a huge victory compared historically, but in Canada, it's the first time they've had such a big victory in a long time. But still, they didn't win. They lost to the Liberals. So. Australia, same thing. So those are different countries. Canada is a different country. Australia, these are different countries. If you're not familiar, I understand there's a lot of similar countries out there, but these are different ones from each other. But Australia also had an election. This is an article from before the election happened, I guess. Is the election today? Hold on. Liberals left reeling after defeat. Oh. Okay, wait, what happened in the... I didn't see. Hold on. No, wait. Why does it say that? Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read this on the fly here. So BBC, Australia's opposition left reeling after crushing defeat. Australia's opposition... Sorry, I don't really know Australian politics at all. So the Liberal Party leader, I think... Labor. Okay, right. So liberal just means so many different things. Okay, so liberal is the conservative one, and then Labor is the more left-wing one. So yeah, Labor had an emphatic win. Anthony Albanese. Yeah, major cities said, we want to change. Okay, anyways, so that's that. Right wing, not as strong. People, unfortunately, kind of, for the right wing people, unfortunately, people are starting to see what they're about. Kim Davis, who refused to issue gay marriage licenses in Kentucky, loses another appeal. So stay losing, loser. And do your job and issue licenses if that's your job. You can't deny marriage license because it's against your religious views. You could just quit your job. You think I'm allowed to not work with a client because I don't agree with their choices or their sexual orientation or their gender identity? Like, no, you have a profession and there are standards of the profession. So, oh yeah, they want to take it to the court to try to overturn Obergefell, and we'll see how Dave Rubin feels about that. Supreme Court already rejected an appeal. Anyways, just stay losing, loser. Next up on good things desk, Palestinian student released on bail as he challenges deportation from U.S. This is what I was referring to before. Mohsen Madawi released from custody. Still has an unjust case, I believe, but he was released from custody, and he's ordered not to be deported. And so that is a good thing. And I hope that influences the cases of all these other people unjustly targeted for their free speech. And next on good things desk, U.S. judge limits Trump's ability to swiftly deport migrants held at Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay, by the way, is in another country, which is called Cuba. Personally, I have this really radical belief, which is that nations should have their prisons within their own territory. Isn't that weird? I'm like really quirky. I'm just like a kind of quirky fella. And so that's one of my kind of quirky, like alt opinions, is that countries should have their prisons within their own territory. I'm just super quirky. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? So, okay, next up on good things and last up, we have a few more actually. U.S. Appeals Court will not allow the so-called Department of Government so-called efficiency to access Social Security data. This will go to the Supreme Court, but huge win. And lastly, Republican President Donald Trump's use of Alien Enemies Act, by the way, a 18th century wartime law, to try to deport Venezuelan nationals who are legally in the United States, by the way, is ruled unlawful. 36-page opinion ruled that the Republican Trump administration exceeded the scope of the act by using it to speed up the deportations of alleged members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Alleged is the key word there. Not convicted. The judge's permanent injunction against the use of the law applies to migrants detained in the Southern District of Texas. So that would apply to the individuals we were seeing spelling out SOS at their prison camp, I believe. Cool. So, I mean, the justice is not overall, it's not, the battle's not over, but justice is doing good here. Justice is doing quite good here. So that is the good things segment. I hope you enjoyed all those good things, and I hope you're feeling good from top to bottom and from side to side. That's maybe a new slogan we could kind of say at the end of the good things segment. No? Can you write that down so I don't forget it? next time. No, I can't write it down. I'm doing the podcast. So that's the good things statement, or sorry, the good things segment. The good things segment. Sorry, I was confused for a second. Great. So let's move on to the. This is an important next segment. So this is the everyone makes mistakes, right? That's something we talk about sometimes. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has those days, and I just think that's important to kind of reckon with. So let's talk about how everyone makes mistakes. Child scratches Rothko painting worth $56 million. Worth $56 million. You know what I mean? If you consider a painting a commodity, then it's worth $56 million. Child scratches Rothko painting worth $56 million in unguarded moment at museum. Everyone makes mistakes. Thanks. No, I'd love to watch a video about something unrelated. Thanks. Unnamed child. Come on. They can't even... Did no one name this child? No wonder they're acting out. Child touched the painting when it was on display. Small scratches are visible in the unvarnished paint layer in the lower part of the painting. Oh, Crimea River. I'm sorry, but as a painter, who cares? Who cares? This is just I really am not joking. There's no way to avoid this. So it's just not a big deal. There's literally no way to avoid this. Obviously, parents should try to make sure their kids don't mess with the art at museums. But this will happen sometimes. You can't cover all the art in glass. It makes it look horrible. It totally messes with the appeal of the art. At the end of the day, Rothko made a lot of paintings. It's not that big of a deal. So, okay, everyone makes mistakes. GM recalling 721,000 vehicles over engine issue. Totally get that, GM. We all make mistakes sometimes. What's the problem? Crankshaft engine components may have manufacturing defects that can lead to engine damage or failure. Totally. Been there. I've been there. You know what I mean? I've done that. We've all done that. Next up on the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment, U.S. judge rules Apple violated order to reform App Store. So, 80-page ruling. Apple failed to comply with a prior injunction order brought by an antitrust lawsuit brought by Fortnite maker Epic Games. That was recently, right? That ruling was recently. It's an injunction, not a negotiation. There are no do-overs once a party willfully disregards a court order. So Apple, because they pulled Epic's account after the company let iPhone users navigate outside Apple's ecosystem for better payment deals. Yeah, antitrust laws exist, but hey, we all make mistakes. So next up, Trump's ambassador to France, nominee Kushner, no relation. Is there a relation? Yeah, there is a relation. This is the father of Jared Kushner. This guy was in prison for some wild shit a while ago. It's just I remember when in the first Trump administration, I was like, is everyone really just going to do this nepotism? And then it's yeah, I mean, we had W. Bush after Bush. People don't really understand the dangers of nepotism. I mean, nepotism is nepotism is a very key issue in our society, and it's an intersection of privilege, inherited wealth. It's essentially the opposite of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility to try to help jobs be not just for rich folks. But anyways, yeah, so nepotism is a real nexus of issues. Charles Kushner, I made a very serious mistake, he said. His past conviction for tax evasion and witness tampering. By the way, look into that and other federal charges. Too many to list? Retaliating against a federal witness and lying to the Federal Election Commission. Served 2 years in prison, maximum allowed in a plea deal. He learned that his brother-in-law Charles Kushner learned that his brother-in-law was cooperating with a federal investigation and hired a prostitute, a sex worker, to lure his brother-in-law into a motel room for an encounter recorded with a hidden camera and sent the tape to the brother-in-law's wife, Kushner's sister. He was then pardoned by Republican President Donald Trump and his son's father-in-law in 2020. So I have nothing to add, but these people you know, everyone does make mistakes, but sometimes, as we talked about forgiveness in the shrinking video, like sometimes forgiveness doesn't have to mean reconciliation. Sometimes forgiveness can mean, and you still face consequences for your actions. You know what I mean? But everyone does make mistakes. Kohl's fires new CEO for personal relationship with a vendor. So, Chief Executive Officer Ashley Buchanan may have, is that a, oh, that's a man. Found he had pushed for deals with a vendor with whom he had a personal relationship after little more than 100 days in the chief executive officer job. So, you know, he caused the company to agree with a multi-million-dollar consulting agreement with a team that included this person he was involved with. He also did not disclose their relationship. I think everyone makes mistakes, though, is also a key point. You know what I mean? So, chief executive officers are people, too. And they make mistakes. And I think we're all learning that. So, Kohl's, do better. You know what I mean? Next up on Everyone Makes Mistakes, TikTok fined 530 million euros by EU regulator over data protection. I like protecting data, too. But you don't see me bragging about it, making a whole episode about data or something of the podcast, which I never did for any reason. TikTok was fined a lot of money and was ordered to suspend data transfers to China if its processing is not brought into compliance within 6 months over concerns of how it protects user information. Yeah. All these apps, you know what I mean? I would say be very particular with which apps you use, and how many. Not with which, like most of them are going to try to take as much data as they can, but, you know. So that's why I would limit the number that you use. And lastly, on Everyone Makes Mistakes, Duolingo Chief Executive Officer says he's getting rid of contract employees and replacing them with artificial intelligence. So good reason to correct your own mistake and delete the Duolingo app. You can learn languages other ways from companies that pay employees. So everyone makes mistakes, you know, right? All right, so as we come up towards the end of this episode here, by the way, check out the private episodes if you're enjoying this by becoming a channel member of the main channel or joining on Patreon. Both links are in the description. Next up, we have the follow-ups segment. So the follow-up segment is where I follow up on the previous episode. And can we get a good... okay. Had some follow-ups, have some important follow-ups, significant mistakes. We talk about mistakes. We all make them. First of all, first one, pretty early on. Not ideal to have in the first 2 minutes, but let's check out this mistake.
And we're still going. 109. Pretty good. A lot of episodes don't last that long.
Yeah, a lot of podcasts don't last that long. Okay, we're in the first minute of the episode. You could... Okay, you don't say a lot of episodes don't last, a lot of podcasts don't last that long, but I got confused. I just got confused.
I don't know if we have the numbers on what percent of episodes last that long.
I said it again. You know what I mean? I said it again. I don't know. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Okay, and next up, on the very long video segment. Oh, no, in the image segment last time. Let's see. What was this? What was this problem?
Yes. I never realized that, but that does make sense. And this is just such a, like, baseball just always outdoes itself with the, like, most ridiculous stats.
Okay, as I said, baseball always outdoes itself.
Ball just always outdoes itself with the
Outdoes
most
itself.
ridiculous.
But I don't know how to spell outdoes. Oh, yeah, I do. No, what I don't know how to spell is outdoes. I was trying to spell it for myself for a note here so I'd remember. But yeah, I said outdoes. It's really outdoes. Okay. And then lastly, this is important. You might be watching like, is this important? I need to correct these because then this is how I avoid, getting called out later for this. I can be like, I corrected the record on that. And lastly, one more follow-up is during this video segment. Oh, yeah, this is really funny, actually. I'm surprised I missed this. So I was showing how Brian Kilmeade introduced former Fox News weekend host and current leader of the military-industrial complex, Pete Hegseth, who has some very suspicious tattoos and whose mom said in an email that he was an abuser before, I guess, walking it back when she realized that was in writing. So Brian Kilmeade, current Fox News host, brought on Pete Hegseth, former Fox host. And I was joking about, because it was really funny, Brian Kilmeade called Pete Hegseth former Secretary of Defense. And so it was funny because Pete had this whole thing where, he sent war plans to another private chat that he shouldn't have, including family and his lawyer and so on, which, again, everyone makes mistakes. But it was funny because that is something you would normally get fired for at a job. So when Brian Kilmeade called him former Secretary of Defense, I thought that was very funny. And it was so we can look at that moment. And there's something else I got to add.
Very recently, but here we go.
Called Team Huddle, here to set the record straight himself, the current Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth.
So I found it so funny that he said former that I didn't even realize he said Secretary of State. So he said former Secretary of State. Oh, current Secretary of State. It's defense, Brian. Brian, do you need a day off? It's defense.
Set the record straight himself, the current Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth.
And Pete doesn't even correct him. He doesn't say, I'm defense, actually. Rubio, the war hawk, the guy who, has been bending the knee to fascism as much as possible because he's a complete opportunist and only cares about power. He's the leader of state, and I'm the leader of the military-industrial complex at defense.
Straight himself, the current Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth.
Like, what? How do I have to follow up on that? Because there's even more that you got wrong, Brian. Like, all right. Anyways, so that's the follow-up segment. I hope you enjoyed that. A lot of people did. Getting a lot of calls. People are saying, hey, great job on the podcast you're doing right now. And I'm like, how do you know? And they're like, we're in your walls. Okay, so next up we have the mailbag. So this is where people write into the verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. You could write in and say hello. So we have a improv suggestion. So I wasn't sure if I was going to do improv, but I will do it now because we got an improv suggestion. So let's do that. I'm going to move things around. Well, no, never mind. Okay. So good. We could do this improv suggestion and that will be really fun. So let's do that. All right. So we are going here. So the improv suggestion, thank you for writing in What About Jelly? And I will read your prompt. The prompt is the preeminent Immanuel Kant. So that's good because I think that was a reference to, I feel like we were talking about Kant last time, right? Or I was talking about Kant on, I'm losing track of all the content I do. The content. Okay, so anyways, I was talking about Kant somewhere. Anyways, I'm reading a book, What We Owe to Others by Thomas Scanlon, which is an exposition on contractualism, which is sort of an alternative to utilitarianism or deontological morality. And it's the idea that we call things right and wrong based on whether the principle underlying the action could be reasonably accepted by someone who has similar motivations to come up with a shared sort of social contract of morality. Or like, to put it a different way, like something is wrong, an action is wrong when the principle underlying the action could be reasonably rejected by someone who's thinking about the issue reasonably, essentially. So it's a lot of technical stuff, but it's also some very practical stuff related to how we understand right and wrong being based in the reasons for the actions, not necessarily the outcomes of the actions, or obviously the intentions. But the reason, so it's not just the reason, or it's not just the intention, but it's, I don't know. I haven't finished the book, but anyways, okay. So, all right. So let's get into, that would be the improv intro, right? Are we still doing that? You're threatening to fire me if I do the improv segment? I mean, you just brought me back on the pod after. I have every right to do the improv segment. Also, you're not supposed to be texting me during the show anymore. That was part of the agreement. And I can hear you. You can just talk to me. But no, we're doing the improv segment. You're not firing me again. Okay. Let's go. So, hi, and welcome to... Oh, wait, there was a light thing I was going to do, right? So the lights go on. Okay. Yeah, to kind of symbolize. All right, welcome to Verbal Journal Podcast Improv Extravaganza, right? Extravaganza, callback. Anyone know about that? Okay. This was before your time. Okay. Thank you for joining me and us. And let me have a suggestion for a one-person scene, please. Yes, you in the back. The preeminent Immanuel Kant. Okay, thank you. And your voice is sounding more normal than ever, might I say. Thank you. Okay, the preeminent Immanuel Kant. All right, so let's go. Okay, and scene. Oh, wait, no, I can't do that. That's not my thing. Okay, I'm just starting. I just start. Oh, yeah, that's why I do the lights, I think. Okay, yeah, okay. So they were off. Okay, now they're on. Preeminent Immanuel Kant. Okay. Hello, class, please. Yes, come on in. Yes. All right. First day of the year. Everyone's excited. People in their nice clothes. Welcome to the big outlines in philosophical understandings. And we will be focusing on the preeminent Immanuel Kant. And we will specifically be focusing on his philosophical theories. Yes, I don't know why you have a question already. Yes. No. That is part of Kant's personal life, and we will not be exploring that. If you come to a philosophy class to talk about the personal life we will not be talking about that. And I don't know. Yes, he had some sort of rash. Yes, it is the historically. Historians of philosophy do agree that Kant had a very serious rash. Yes. Not relevant to his work on the categorical imperative. There is some speculation that it's relevant, but we are not going to be going into that really here. Yes, thank you. Say yes. I have heard that as well. I've heard that there was a urinary thing as well that he was dealing with. We're not going to be talking about that also. Again, this is the outlines in philosophical investigations 101. So that you're talking more about some sort of, you know what I mean, some sort of like socializing the person type of thing. And that's not what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing, so the categorical imperative is the idea that it's basically like the golden rule. So do unto others as you would have them do to you. I'll look it up just because I want to make sure I get it right. And I know I shouldn't be doing this on the first day of our class. Unconditional demand, not dependent on desires or outcomes, but rather based on reason and logic. Determine if an action is right or wrong by considering whether it could be universally applied. Yes, I'm sorry. I usually know this stuff, but you all have thrown me off with these sorts of personal so category. Could it be universally justified? So, for example, we're not going to be talking about his rash on his butt or his urinary issue, because that is not a universalizable principle. Yes, in the back. Yeah, I mean, I think there was a weird sort of mole. He definitely had a mole. I just don't know that that's relevant to. Yes, please, thank you. I'd love to change the subject. Hopefully, this is about the philosophical aspects of this. His toes. His toenails. I'm sorry. No, I don't think his toenails were. I don't even remember reading anything about his toenails actually. So that one, you've shown. This is actually a good example of the categorical imperative because you've shown that the principle of analyzing. Yes. No, his hair was not very stringy. I don't think he had stringy hair. Why are you all like this? Yes. I don't even know why you would criticize someone for having dimples. Also, I don't know that he had dimples. Did people have dimples back then? Yes. They did? Okay, fair enough. Look, I'm going to call it a day on this first introduction. Hopefully, I'll just email you all the syllabus and don't respond. You know what I mean? Just don't even respond. Just take the syllabus, come back to class, and maybe we'll have to... we'll have to look at. Can anyone say anything positive about his body? Because there's been a lot of criticism. Yes. Yes, he did. He had very nice eyebrows. I agree. That's a very good. Now we're talking. So thank you and have a great rest of the semester. Okay. Okay, so that was the improv segment. You can sort of tell, why they threatened to fire me over that. All right. So let's do the fantasy segment. So I am in the last day. Obviously, my fantasy baseball league. Fantasy baseball leagues end on Sunday, so each week is a different matchup. I've lost the last two matchups, even though I was 3-1. Or no, I lost the last one. So I'm 3-2 now. Ooh, it's gonna be a tough comeback today because I'm down 17 points. It's not a ton of points to be down. Okay, I got a few more pitchers that are throwing later in the day. I need one of my opponent's pitchers to do poorly. Ooh, they got a few pitchers going. It's going to be a close one here. I need some, I got Dustin May throwing in the evening for Dodgers. I need him to do well. And I got, who else do I have? Chris Bassett. He's not throwing. Who's throwing? Who's my other pitcher throwing today? Gore. I think Gore's throwing, right, for Cincinnati. Yeah, I need him to do quite well. That's not the most interesting segment. You know what I mean? But I think people like to know where my fantasy baseball league is at. I think. I sort of just assumed. No one's really ever mentioned it. No one's ever said, hey, can you do the fantasy segment? So let me know in the comments how you feel about the fantasy segment. We could talk about other types of fantasies, you know what I mean? But I just, it might be a little inappropriate. It doesn't have to be. I mean, there are appropriate fantasies. Okay, so let me thank the channel supporters. So if you want to join the channel, check out all these private episodes that I do. Like the next 2 episodes will not be for the public of the VJP. They will just be for the channel supporters. So if you'd like to see where things go, you can join the channel as a member of the What's Therapy main channel or as on the Patreon for the What's Therapy channel. And you can see those links in the description. Let me thank the patrons first. So over on Patreon, thank you, Neural Damage. Thank you, Guh. Thank you, Francis, Aiden, Noah, Burrow, Emil, Luna, Perpetually Jackson, A, Islac, Caleb, Miranda, Ruben, Ibnomad, MK, Matt, X, Noah, Anastasios, Linguist, Sam, King. Oh, I'm getting a call. No, you can't fire me. No, I just say no. Yep. Thank you. Have a good one. I know. Have a good one. Thank you. So that's how you stand up for yourself. Okay. King Margot, Tom, Verbal, Gerbil, Redgrove, Elemancy, Platinum Sarge, Rabid Dog, Roman, Ian, Russ, Irene, MJ, Gal45 or Swit, Ryan, Madeline, Mr. Moxie, Brent, Molly, Kyle, Ashley, Scott, Luca, Gunther, Thulusaurus Rex, Miles, and User. And over on YouTube memberships, thank you, Ollie the Fourth, Maddie, Tanis, Eva, Loplian, Ramon, Matthew, Jasmine, Simply, Snaps, Jifa, Hollow Moon, Pit Inhabitant, and 39% Weird. All right, so that's it. That's the podcast. That's what I do. That's how we do it. I hope you have an amazing life, or at least a fine afternoon, or evening, or morning, or late morning. All right, bye. This is a podcast or something like that.